Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening. As a matter of fact, I still don't know why Lucian called off your engagement, as Sean stated his doubts as he fixed his gaze on her. Hearing that, Aubrey allowed herself to relax. Hope flashed across her eyes as she asked, Is there nothing going on between you and Roxan? Surprised, Sean retorted, Why would you think there's something going on between us? Aubrey let out a deep breath of relief before unleashing her pent-up emotions and bitter resentment toward Roxan. If it wasn't for that batch, I would have been Mrs. Farwell by now. I'll never forgive her for what she did. Sean noticed the change in her gaze and fell silent for a few moments. A strange smile played on his lips as he said, I can help you. Aubrey's heart skipped a beat as she met his gaze in delight. She might be wrong, but there seemed to be a calculative look in Sean's eyes. Sean had grown weary of attempting to disguise his intentions. He declared frankly, You can count on me to provide you with the means to depart this country, but you must listen to me once you have reached your destination. It may be somewhat challenging, so I can't guarantee you'll be able to comply. Aubrey desperately wanted a way out of her current situation. When presented with an opportunity to escape, she was more than eager to make it happen. Without hesitation, she agreed, Sure. I'm willing to do anything as long as you can help me. With that, they reached an agreement. Sean changed his tone and spoke amicably. I will see to it that someone is able to safely transport you out of the country. I hope you won't let me down. With that, they reached an agreement. Thank you so much. After Aubrey got what she came here for, her eyes gleamed with a newfound feeling of determination and vengefulness. Freda had been hiding outside for some time, dreading the notion of confronting the two mad individuals who were in the mansion. Despite her trepidation, she was not brave enough to go off by herself and eventually made the difficult decision to enter the mansion. Aubrey, how did it go? She asked carefully after making her way inside. Aubrey's expression gave away the results, and upon seeing it, she felt a sense of relief wash over her. Why did you leave? Aubrey gave her an icy glare. When I was in trouble, she escaped and abandoned me to face that lunatic alone. If I wasn't about to depart from the country, I would have given her a stern reprimand for her behavior. Freda noticed Aubrey's displeasure and attempted to placate her with a smile. I left to look into the situation, she explained. The Farwells have already made a police report, but I'm sure that with this gentleman's help, you won't have anything to worry about anymore. A grim look spread across Aubrey's face when she heard that. Why is Lucian so heartless? My family is in tatters, but he still won't stop. It's all the batch's fault. She must have told him something. Roxan Jarvis, I must teach you a lesson when I return. Her hatred was so intense that Freda felt a chill go down her spine. Aubrey, you're going to leave soon, so it's best to let it go. Why? Shut up. You know nothing. Aubrey interjected. I'll be back. I won't let that batch off easily. Freda opened her mouth in an attempt to convince Aubrey to reconsider her decision, but before she had the chance to do so, Sean came downstairs after relaying his orders to his subordinate. He didn't even spare Freda a glance as he looked straight at Aubrey. We have no time to spare. I have a subordinate waiting outside for you, Ms. Pearson. You can depart now. Without further delay, Aubrey rose to her feet and strode out of the mansion. Seeing that Aubrey was prepared to leave, Freda dared not stay behind and hastily followed her out the door. Outside, she watched as Aubrey was ushered into a sleek, black car by a mysterious man wearing an equally dark outfit. Without a moment's hesitation, the driver started the car and quickly pulled away, leaving Freda behind. For the next 2 days, the police failed to make progress. Farwell Group had mobilized all its forces but failed to locate Aubrey in Horrington. Caden arrived at Lucian's office with a dark expression. Mr. Farwell, have you found Aubrey? Lucian's voice was icy cold when he mentioned Aubrey's name. Caden felt a chill travel down his spine as he sensed the fury radiating from Lucian. We have yet to find her whereabouts, and the police haven't given us any updates. Inside the study, the temperature dropped so low that it was almost sub-zero. An ominous black thundercloud of temper settled over Lucian as he asked, "What about Samuel and Gina? Did Aubrey contact them?"
Caden replied carefully, "No.
I've looked into it, and they stopped contacting Aubrey after her photos were leaked." After observing Lucian's reaction, he mustered up the courage to express his suspicion. I think Aubrey has fled. She must have sensed something was wrong, as she hasn't spoken to Ophelia in days." Lucian had the same suspicion, too. He remained unfazed after hearing Caden's words. The study fell silent in an instant. Anxiety crept up Caden's heart, as he wasn't sure what to do. Fortunately, Lucian soon broke the silence. "Continue to keep an eye on the Pearsons and the search for Aubrey. If she has managed to escape, she'd better not come back. If she does, our men must be the first to discover her whereabouts." Caden exhaled sharply and gave a curt nod. Understood. As Lucian was done relaying his orders, Caden reported the remaining information to him and turned to leave. The soft click of the door latch echoed through the study. Lucian slowly rose from his chair and made his way to the window where he stood in deep contemplation. Aubrey's whereabouts remain unknown. The fact that she is still missing is a cause of great concern. Roxan and the children are in a precarious situation. I have considered assigning more bodyguards to ensure their safety, yet this still leaves me with lingering concerns. I wish more than anything that I could keep Roxan close to me all the time, but unfortunately, she is a free spirit who cannot be controlled. I must figure out another way. Right then, the shrill sound of the phone ringing on his desk startled him. Lucian went over and realized it was a call from Jonathan. He answered it without hesitation. "Lucian, how are things going? Have you found Aubrey?" Jonathan was aware of the situation and had been keeping tabs on it. Lucian's brows were knitted together as he replied in frustration. "No. I suspect she has escaped, but I told them to continue finding her." Jonathan was baffled. A Farwell group and the police are working hard to find her. Even if she has wings, it is impossible for her to fly out of the country. Is she in some sort of shelter or an area full of homeless people? He was highly doubtful that Aubrey would be able to manage an escape on her own, considering her family was no longer influential. The only feasible explanation for her disappearance was that she had managed to elude detection by hiding away like a small rodent. My men did a thorough search all over Horrington in all the possible places, Lucian revealed darkly. Jonathan's mood grew heavy. That woman is unusually persistent. Remind Roxan to be careful. I'll also join in the search." Lucian wasn't in the mood to continue their conversation, so he agreed and ended the call. Jonathan's expression darkened after the call ended. He strode out of the room and stopped outside Freda's door. Ever since Aubrey left, Freda had been cooping up in her room due to her guilty conscience. When she heard someone knocking on the door, she was so nervous that she nearly fell out of her bed. "Hey Freda, it's me. Open the door." Jonathan spoke in a firm tone that left no room for negotiation. However, Freda did not have the guts to face him. Faking a weak voice, she answered, "I'm not feeling well. Can we talk another time? If you don't open the door now, I'll get the key and open it myself." Jonathan was adamant about speaking to his sister right then. Freda had no choice but to get up and open the door. Jonathan, what's so urgent that you have to talk to me immediately?" Looking at the woman with a scrutinizing gaze, Jonathan said, $2,500,000 was found missing from the company's accounts during the time you were there. What did you spend the money on?" Initially, he had assumed that his sister had used the money to buy luxury products. Since it wasn't a huge sum of money, he had turned a blind eye to it. However, Jonathan could not help but feel uneasy when he thought about Freda's abnormal behavior over the past few days, considering everything that had happened. Freda's heart skipped a beat after she heard her brother's question. She lowered her head in a fluster in an attempt to mask her feelings of guilt. That money. I used it to buy a bag." Knowing Freda extremely well, Jonathan noticed something amiss about her at once. At that moment, his heart sank. "Where's the bag?" Freda's voice grew increasingly soft as she replied, "It's a pre-order and will take some time to arrive." "Show me the receipt, then. You should have it, right?" Jonathan pressed further. Freda remained silent after hearing that. As she had lied about buying the bag, there was no way she could produce a receipt. Did you give that money to Aubrey?" Jonathan exposed his sister without beating around the bush. A shiver ran down Freda's spine before she replied, "I gave Aubrey some money out of pity. I can't bear to see her in such a miserable state. After all, our families used to be quite close. Before the woman could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Jonathan, who was simmering with anger. How many times have I told you not to contact her anymore? Not only did you not listen to me, but you even gave her our family's money." Jonathan was so enraged that Freda felt overwhelmed by the intense pressure he was emitting. She looked at the ground at once, avoiding her brother's eyes that were blazing with fury. Suddenly, Jonathan extended his arm and pushed her into the room before slamming the door shut. A wave of fear washed over Freda as the thunderous sound echoed in the air. Tell me honestly, are you involved in Aubrey's disappearance?" Jonathan asked in a low voice. Judging by the look in his eyes, he was almost certain that his sister had played a part in it. Freda gritted her teeth in terror. Trying her best not to expose herself, she took a deep breath and replied, I don't know what you're talking about. I did give her some money, but it was long before she disappeared." Jonathan narrowed his eyes. Long before she disappeared? I don't remember sharing with you the time of her disappearance." Freda lifted her head abruptly, her eyes filled with panic. Even so, she bit the bullet and shook her head while saying, I don't know. I don't know anything. Where is she now? Has she really escaped?" Taking a pause, Jonathan softened his tone and continued, If you know where she is, you need to tell me now. If she has already fled Horrington, we will have to keep an eye on all major routes into the city and make sure that she never comes back. If she returns, we can arrest her immediately. That way, you will no longer have to contact her, and I can stop worrying about the Queen family being implicated by her. We can make sure that she never comes back, and if she returns, we can arrest her immediately. That sounded rather tempting to Freda. If that were the case, she would finally be able to escape the clutches of Aubrey. Freda's expression changed visibly. Jonathan could tell that she was wavering. He seized the opportunity and asked again, Has she already fled Horrington? Freda lowered her head and nodded in silence. When Jonathan saw that, a trace of anger flashed across his face, but he quickly suppressed the rage rising in him. Given Aubrey's capabilities, there was no way she could have escaped under the surveillance of both the Farwell family and the police. Even with your help, it was still an impossible feat. How exactly did she manage to do it? Freda hesitated for a second before answering with a pleading look in her eyes. Jonathan, if I tell you, can you promise me not to tell anyone else? Jonathan remained unmoved as he fixed his gaze on his sister. Lucian can't know that I didn't inform him that Aubrey ran away. He's not going to let me off. Who knows, maybe our entire family would also be affected. Panic was written all over Freda's face as she tugged at Jonathan's sleeves. Jonathan's gaze softened when Freda expressed worry about their family's situation. However, instead of giving her a direct answer, he merely said, So tell me, how did she manage to escape? Freda took her brother's silence as his tacit agreement and said softly, she had help from a man. If I'm not wrong, he's the one who was with her at the hotel that day. He seems to be a rather powerful person. He sent Aubrey out of Horrington on the night of the incident. Jonathan could feel anger flooding his veins, but he managed to keep a poker face when Freda looked toward him. That's all I know. I have nothing else to tell you even if you continue asking me, the woman said. Jonathan furrowed his brows and asked, when is she coming back? Freda shook her head. I have no idea. I left the room when both of them were talking. When I returned, Aubrey was already getting into the car and leaving. After saying that, she asked Jonathan hopefully, didn't you say that you will prevent her from returning? When Jonathan was sure that his sister had told him everything she knew, he finally unleashed the fury he had been suppressing all this while. Are you finally worried that she might come back? You should have taken my words seriously in the first place. Freda's eyes brimmed with grievance and nervousness when she saw the sudden change in her brother's attitude. Why did you help her? Were you involved in all those things that she had done previously? Jonathan asked sternly, suddenly recalling some things. Freda let go of his sleeves guiltily. Learning her lesson, she decided not to tell him anything else.
No.
That's really all. I had no idea what she wanted me to help her with when she came to see me. I didn't expect. She sounded as if Aubrey had also deceived her. Jonathan eyed his sister suspiciously for some time while she kept her head bowed. Make sure this stays between us. Don't you dare ask Grandpa or Mom and Dad for help. I don't want them to collapse from anger. After an extended silence, Jonathan continued coldly. It's best for you to stay at home during this period. You're not allowed to step out of the house without my permission. Without giving Freda a chance to reply, Jonathan turned around and strode out of the room after saying that. Keep an eye on her. Don't let her leave the house without my permission. Even with the door slammed shut, Freda could hear her brother speaking to the housekeeper. She felt as if a pail of ice-cold water had been dumped on her. After much contemplation, Jonathan still thought he had to talk to Lucian face-to-face after learning the truth. Otherwise, the Queen family might meet the same fate as the Pearson family if the Farwell learned about it from Aubrey. Jonathan quickly called Lucian and invited him for drinks. Lucian, who had no place to vent his anger for the past 2 days, agreed without hesitation. The two of them agreed to meet at the club they often went to. When Lucian arrived, Jonathan had already ordered the drinks and was drinking by himself in the private room. He looked pretty angry too. What's wrong? Did something happen to the Queen family again? Lucian took a seat next to him and poured himself a drink. Jonathan was thinking of how to tell Lucian the truth. His mind was a mess. Only when he heard Lucian's voice did he return to his senses and stop drinking. After a while, he decided to finish the drink in his hand before he smiled bitterly and said, Lucian, didn't you say that you suspect Aubrey ran away? Well, now I can certainly tell you that it's true. She indeed ran away. Lucian stopped drinking when he heard that and turned to look at Jonathan. What did you say? Helplessness was written all over Jonathan's face as he replied. If it's possible, I, too, wish that I didn't know about it, but the two of them grew up together. Even if Jonathan did not finish his sentence, Lucian could already guess what Jonathan was going to say. If the Farwell family could not find out the truth, it was even more impossible for Jonathan to find out about it. The only possibility was that the person who knew the truth was beside him. Freda. A cold glint flashed across Lucian's eyes when he thought of Freda. However, he was still considerate of his friend and did not express his displeasure. Jonathan had helped Lucian and Roxan a lot with their relationship. He believed Jonathan would keep watch over Freda. Lucian was willing to be considerate of Jonathan. As long as the latter chose not to say anything, Lucian would pretend not to know. Who sent her away? Lucian changed the topic as he refilled their glasses. Jonathan raised his glass gratefully. He sounded doubtful as he answered. I know that the person was the man Aubrey met during the hotel's opening. The next morning, that man had also taken inappropriate photos of Aubrey. I have no idea why he would help her. Lucian scrunched up his eyebrows, and his expression turned grim. What exactly are that man's intentions? He first put Aubrey in the spotlight, but now he's helping her by doing this. And he's able to avoid getting caught by the Farwell family and the police. This person is dangerous the more I think about it. I must quickly find him. Jonathan also had the same thought. I also want to know Aubrey's whereabouts. We'll find her as long as we find that man. I'm somewhat related to this matter. I can't sit by and do nothing. Lucian slightly nodded before taking a sip of his drink and said, It's not a bad thing if Aubrey did leave Horrington. Since she dared to leave, she should never think of returning. I won't let her get another chance at harming them. Jonathan was fully aware of who Lucian referred to as them. When Jonathan thought of how his sister had been hanging out with Aubrey, he said apologetically, I'm sorry. If I had found out about it sooner. It has nothing to do with you. If Aubrey doesn't return, we'll just let this matter go. However, if she dares to return, we'll just wait for the truth to be revealed. While he did promise that he would be considerate of Jonathan, his patience was limited. Jonathan sighed inwardly and did not say anything else. Roxan had wanted to personally send and pick up the 3 children to Anne from the kindergarten. She thought she would be more relieved if she did that. However, she did not expect to be so busy on the first night and ended up asking Linda to pick them up in her stead. Half an hour later, she received a call from Archie. Roxanne thought Linda had not arrived, so she quickly answered the phone. Roxanne could hear Archie's wary tone from the other end of the call. Mommy, can we go home with Miss Linda? Roxanne was momentarily stunned when she heard that. However, she quickly returned to her senses and remembered that she had told them not to follow anyone else home. She did not expect the children to be that vigilant. Yes, you can. I was the one who asked Miss Linda to pick you up. You should head home first, she replied softly. Archie agreed in a childish voice and hung up. Roxanne placed her phone aside and felt guilt well up in her heart. Something big has happened, and Aubrey's whereabouts are still unknown. I should have stayed home and taken care of them. She pondered over it before dialing Lucian's number. The call connected quickly. Roxanne, what's wrong? Roxanne lowered her head and asked, can I ask you for a favor? Can you please take care of the children for a few days? Lucian is their father. It makes sense for him to take care of the children if I'm busy. Plus, only Lucian can ensure their safety. Surprise flashed across Lucian's face. His lips curved upward into a smile as he replied, of course. I'm happy that you can trust me. Roxanne was moved when she heard him agree to it so quickly. Sorry to trouble you. Lucian asked, where are they right now? Have they gone home? Roxanne checked the time before replying. I asked Linda to pick them up. They should be home by now. If it's convenient for you, can you please take them to the manor? Roxanne felt bad if Lucian had to travel to and fro between her home and the manor daily. Lucian did not answer her directly. I got it. I'll head over right now. You should come back soon. Don't overwork yourself. Roxanne glanced at the progress of her experiment and gave a response guiltily. She hung up and quickly continued the experiment. After hanging up, Lucian finished his work and prepared to leave Farwell Group. When he exited his office, he met Caden, who was waiting for the elevator. Mr. Farwell, Caden greeted respectfully. Lucian nodded in response, asking, which restaurant did you often buy food for me from? Caden was caught off guard by Lucian's question. He did not even realize that the elevator had arrived. Only when Lucian entered the elevator did he return to his senses and follow behind Lucian. Mr. Farwell, if you want their food, I'll call them immediately to send it to the manor. Lucian frowned and ordered, have them send the food to Derwest Garden. Also, send me the address to the restaurant. Caden nodded. Mr. Farwell must be bringing food to visit Mrs. Farwell. He tactfully confirmed Lucian's order with him before calling the restaurant. He then sent the restaurant's address to Lucian. The elevator stopped at the ground floor. After they exited the elevator, Caden asked, Mr. Farwell, do you want me to send you there? With a wave of his hand, Lucian rejected Caden's offer and headed outside. It was past 8 in the evening when Roxan arrived home. When she entered, she saw the 3 children sitting on the couch, tuning to the financial news channel. Lucian was sitting cross-legged beside them. The 4 of them were focused on the television. You're back. Lucian was the first to get up when he heard the sound at the door. There's food on the table. I just heated it. You should change and come down for dinner. Only then did the 3 children shift their focus and run toward her with round bellies. Mommy, the food that Daddy ordered is delicious. Roxan looked amused when she saw how full they were from eating before she shifted her gaze to the CEO before her, who seemed to be asking for credit. What did you? I didn't want to make you worry. You should know I can take good care of them. Roxan was taken aback. She looked at how serious Lucian was and felt her heart skip a beat. I know. That's why I asked you to look after them. The 3 children stared at their parents and slowly backed away in understanding to minimize their presence. Roxan noticed the change in the atmosphere and quickly regained her composure. She lowered her head and walked past Lucian. Lucian did not stop her either. Roxan was tired after having dinner. She suggested Lucian take the children home with him. It's getting late. You should bring them to the manor. Hearing that, the 3 children stared at them in confusion. Roxan patiently explained to Archie and Benny, I'm quite busy these days, and I'm afraid I won't be able to take good care of you. How about the 2 of you stay at Essie's place for some time?
No.
We want to be with you, Mommy. Archie was the first to reject the idea. Determination was written all over his face. Should we want to protect you? Roxan was moved when she heard that. She smiled and reached over to ruffle his hair. I have bodyguards by my side. Plus, I'm an adult. I can take care of myself. I'll be distracted and worried if the 3 of you are here. You don't want me to be exhausted either, right? With how she worded it, the children had no choice but to agree despite their unwillingness. Lucian helped the 3 children get into the car before he turned to look at Roxan. Will you be fine on your own? Roxan smiled. Don't I still have the bodyguards you assigned for me? Plus, Aubrey won't appear for the next few days. I don't think it'll be dangerous. There are a lot of guest rooms at the manor, Lucian hinted. Naturally, Roxan could understand what he meant. However, she still had some concerns, so she shook her head and replied, it's fine. It's closer to the research institute from here. After saying that, she abruptly changed the topic, afraid Lucian might try to persuade her again. It's getting late. The children still need to go to kindergarten tomorrow. You should hurry and bring them home. Lucian knew it was impossible to persuade her, so he kept quiet. After all, the children would be going home with him. He would find other ways to make her agree. With that thought in mind, he reminded her to rest early before getting into the car. Bye, Mommy. The children wound down the window and said goodbye to Roxan reluctantly. Roxan smiled and waved goodbye as she watched them leave. After driving for a while, Lucian looked at the 3 children through the rearview mirror and asked, do you want Mommy to come with us? The children's eyes lit up, and they nodded fervently. I want that too, but that'll have to depend on your performance. Lucian raised his eyebrows in satisfaction. The 3 children stayed at the Farwell residence for the next few days. Lucian used that as an excuse to video call Roxan every night. He would report to her about how the children were doing and also expressed his concern for her health. The children were obedient every time they appeared on the screen. It was already the weekend. It had been 4 whole days since the children had last met Roxan, and they were throwing tantrums about wanting to see her. Lucian had an idea. It was noon. Catalina was about to prepare lunch when she saw Lucian and the children preparing to go out. She said, Mr. Farwell, are you going out to meet Mrs. Farwell? Why don't you wait for me to finish preparing lunch so you can bring some for her? Isn't she busy these days? Please remind her not to overwork herself." Before Lucian could speak, the children had already run toward the kitchen. "Miss Catalina, we'll help you." With that, they each took a stool and stood beside Catalina. A smile appeared on Catalina's lips when she saw the three adorable children. Okay. I'll teach you." The four of them started to prepare lunch in the kitchen. Lucian watched them for a while and felt his heart skip a beat. He could not help but go to the kitchen and join in. "Mr. Farwell?" Catalina was filled with surprise when she saw Lucian walk into the kitchen. However, she quickly understood that he was doing it for Roxan and grinned as she guided them to prepare lunch. The lunch preparation was chaotic, but the final product was considered acceptable with Catalina's help. Catalina helped them pack the food. She then watched them leave with lunch boxes in their hands as she smiled from ear to ear. It was lunchtime when the four of them arrived at the research institute. The children stared at Lucian with wide eyes as he gave Roxan a call. Not long after, Roxan appeared at the entrance of the research institute and made her way toward them. Why did you change cars?" Roxan asked casually when she got in the car and noticed its spacious space. As soon as she said that, the children mysteriously took out a bag. Lucian pressed a button, and soon, a divider fell onto the seat in front of them. Roxan was confused. "Tada! Mommy, we prepared you lunch." Benny struggled to put the bag on the divider. His eyes sparkled in anticipation as he stared at Roxan. Roxan was filled with surprise when she heard what Benny said. She could not help but turn to look at the person beside her. "I've already seen how he washes dishes, but it's hard to imagine him cooking in the kitchen. Lucian had been so clumsy when making a cake the last time, much less cook." Lucian sensed her gaze and turned to look out the window calmly. Roxan thought it was funny, but she was also excited to know what food they had prepared. She reached over to open the bag and took out the lunchboxes one by one. Lucian turned around and looked at the opened lunchboxes. A glint of disgust flashed across his eyes. Forget it. I should bring you all to a restaurant instead." He had always thought he could achieve anything. However, when faced with the food in front of him, he had to admit that he had zero talent for cooking. With that, he got ready to start the car. However, a smile appeared on Roxan's lips. Surprise was written on her face as she said, "You guys made all these? You're awesome." Lucian stopped his actions and narrowed his eyes as he stared at her when he heard her say that. "You don't need to force yourself. These dishes don't look appetizing. You can try my cooking again when I've made improvements. It's better if you don't eat it. You're tired these days. We should go and eat something good." Roxan glanced at the children. They instantly understood her intention and secretly glanced at the food Lucian had prepared. It's fine. I think you all did quite well. There's a well-balanced amount of vegetables and meat, especially the chicken salad. I've been craving something crisp and refreshing for days." With that, Roxan picked up her fork to taste the chicken salad. She scrunched her eyebrows at the sourness. Lucian noticed her response and tasted the chicken salad himself. He immediately frowned and said, I put too much vinegar." As soon as he said that, he reached over again to start the engine. Roxan quickly stopped him by grabbing his arm. No, it's fine. I've been wanting to eat something sour for the past few days. It tastes just right for me." She then put on an act and asked the children, Did you guys make this? My babies are so precious. You could even guess my cravings." The children were amused by Roxan and wanted to laugh but had to hold it in. It was Daddy." Roxan pretended to be surprised as she looked at Lucian. Naturally, Lucian could tell that they were acting. Displeased, he said, Didn't I tell you not to force yourself? If it's not good, then it's not good." Roxan helplessly stopped her act and breathed. Although it can't be considered delicious, it's not that bad either. Besides, it's the thought that counts.
The food will taste delicious no matter what. If I was the one who made all this food and sent it to you personally, would you not have eaten it?" Her words rendered him speechless. Roxan placed a fork in his hand before putting some food on the children's plates. Benny, the food you made is too salty. Essie's food is too spicy." Benny and Estella ate a few mouthfuls of food and began complaining about each other. In the end, they came to a conclusion. Archie's food is the best. Daddy's chicken salad too. Lucian's chicken salad had been chosen as one of the 2 foods that were edible. Roxanne's lips curved upward into a smile as she watched the children arguing playfully. Lucian finally accepted the food on the table. When he heard what the children said, he placed some stir-fried potatoes on Roxanne's plate. Archie had not eaten much of it, yet half of the stir-fried potatoes were gone. The children could not protest when they saw their father playing favoritism so openly. They had no choice but to silently eat the sour chicken salad. Roxanne thought it was funny to see Lucian bully the 3 children. Just eat some of these today. I'll do my best to improve my cooking next time," Lucian said in a deep voice. Roxanne did not think today's meal was a waste, but she still smiled and nodded when she heard what he said. It was almost time for Roxanne to return to the research institute after they finished lunch. Roxanne accompanied them a little longer, but in the end, she still had to return to continue her experiment. "I'm working overtime this afternoon. You guys should go back first." She opened the door and got out of the car. Just as she closed the door, she heard the sound of the door opening and closing. She turned around and saw Lucian walking toward her. What's wrong?" she asked in confusion. Lucian frowned as he looked at her. How long more will you be busy?" Roxanne had been working overtime continuously for more than half a month. Lucian was afraid she might exhaust herself. Roxanne knew he was worried about her. She smiled and comforted him. There are some leads in the experiment now. It'll be over soon. Don't worry. I can take care of myself." Lucian's expression darkened as he looked at her much slimmer figure. The thought of wanting to acquire Damaris Group's pharmaceutical company arose once more in his mind. Roxanne noticed his expression darkening and assumed it was because he did not enjoy the lunch earlier, so helplessly, she continued to reassure him. It made me very happy that you guys put a lot of effort into helping me prepare lunch. Thank you for that." However, as soon as her words fell, Lucian put his arms around her waist and kissed her on the lips. His actions promptly took Roxanne aback, and she instinctively glanced at the car just in time to see the heads of the 3 children poking out of the window. Mommy, we want a kiss too." The children's initial guilty expression changed after she noticed them, and they happily swung open the car door and got out. Roxanne glanced at the calm-looking man in front of her, before focusing on the children's expectant expressions. She crouched down and kissed each child individually. The shyness within her vanished because of them. The children also obediently encircled her neck with their arms and kissed her on the cheek. "You don't forget to take good care of yourself, Mommy." Roxanne assented with a smile. After getting up and bidding farewell to Lucian, she turned and entered the research institute. Although working overtime for 2 days did leave her feeling a little exhausted, seeing Lucian and the kids earlier had filled her with motivation once more. Roxanne soon began to continue the morning's research. However, shortly after she had been working, her phone vibrated. She glanced at it and discovered that it was a call from Jack. Roxanne put her experiment on hold to take the call, assuming he was calling for research-related matters. Jack's voice rang out from the other end of the line. "My apologies, Ms. Jarvis. I've been caught up in other matters for the past 2 days. Are you very busy there?" She smiled understandingly at his words. "You need not apologize to me, Mr. Damaris. Given that your family owns such a sizable business, it's understandable for you to be a little busy. I'm managing well with the research over here." However, Jack still felt apologetic. I happen to be free today, so if you don't mind, I can come to the research institute to help you. Roxan hesitated when she heard that. I'm sure you know that the Damaris family is knowledgeable in this aspect. I can spare you some detours and perhaps also offer some suggestions for improvement, he added persuasively. She naturally hoped that she could develop a new drug with superior efficacy, so she had no reason to refuse after hearing what he said. In that case, I'll have to trouble you to come over then. Jack merely chuckled before ending the call. Unbeknownst to Roxan, Jack had arrived at the research institute a scant step behind Lucian and the children, nearly at the same time. He had been waiting by the roadside for as long as she had been in Lucian's car and had even witnessed their kiss at the end. Seeing how close their family was made his blood boil. Although Roxan had not initiated the kiss, he could tell by the smile on her face that she had already accepted Lucian's affections. I cannot accept that. Roxan is my perfect partner. She must be mine. If I allow her to be together with Lucian, all my previous efforts will be in vain. Jack's expression darkened with malice at that thought. After getting out of the car, he adjusted his expression before entering the research institute. Hence, he was once again sporting an apologetic look by the time he saw Roxan. You've lost weight. It looks like you've been too busy of late. The latter took a quick moment to glance down at herself. Then, with a nonchalant smile, she led him to the entrance of another laboratory. After what happened last time, I've redesigned the research facility and divided it into laboratories of varying sizes. I'm working in a compact one-person laboratory. If you don't mind, yours will be next to mine. That'll make it easier for us to communicate.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.